Good evening. I want to call this meeting to order at 6:01. Jack, would you lead us in the pledge? Thank you, Jack.
All right, Director Berringham,
Here.
Director Welty,
Here.
Director Nathan. Sorry, Director Nathan. Director Hagen. President Harris. Five present, quorum met.
All right, we have approval of October 2nd minutes. Does anybody have an objection? Okay. I make the motion that we approve the October 2nd, 2018 minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Five in favor, motion carried.
Okay. Nancy, you have some really goodies for us.
Not that it matters, I think, to anybody, but Thomas those name tags backwards. I don't think anybody cares for people maybe watching might think that's weird.
Now that works.
Just so you guys know who you are now.
Nancy Horton, EVMWD. You may have noticed in the paper that we opened a new well called the Flagler Well in the Temescal Canyon area. Really a groundbreaking thing in that it was built in less than a year, but of course the property once belonged to the county, so we had to buy it and then take away the remains of an old fire station and make the land ready for what we were planning to do. So it was years, but it actually was built in a year. It's the first of what we call our near-term projects. That means after the governor declared an emergency in water in 2015, we realized that we were going to have more water supply, and we developed a plan to make that possible, counting for all of the growth that we think will happen in this area by 2040. So the near-term projects were things that were supposed to be built between 2 and 3 years. Normally projects take between 4 and 6 years, 10 years, even longer. So this is a good start. The next plan is to do 2 wells in the called Barney Lee wells, and those will, we think, go even faster because there's less to do. Once we find a location, once we ascertain that there's water there and dig the well, we don't have to deal with a lot of the permitting problems that we had to deal with in Temescal. So there are 6 near-term projects. We said 2 to 3 years. Well, obviously it's not 2 to 3 years, but it's still a lot faster than normal projects. So that's the plan. This well is going to provide about 1,700 acre-feet a year, which is enough for about 9,000 people, homes, and that's a really good thing. So each of these wells is going to add to our water supply and is going to make it possible for us to reach that goal by 2020 of having enough water for all of the people that live in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Eric? Did you have? Did I catch you off guard? Okay.
So I would like to take a minute to thank our former Canyon Lake Mayor and EVMWD District 1 Board Director Nancy Horton, who has decided to retire from the EVMWD Board after 4 years of dedicated service and more than 10 years of public service. I would have tried to memorize this, but you've done so much it would have been impossible, so bear with me here. Before I bring Nancy up, let me tell you a little bit about her. Nancy and her husband Ted have lived in Canyon Lake for more than 17 years, enjoying time with their children and grandchildren. Nancy retired as an educator in 2006 after 42 years of teaching and holds 2 master's degrees in education and library science. She has tirelessly served our community as a Canyon Lake City Council member for 6 years, as mayor in 2010, and on the EVMWD Water Board of Directors for the last 4 years. As you all know, she comes to every board meeting and has done an excellent job keeping the community apprised of lake conditions and EVMWD projects. 2 things she is greatly known for is her passion for kids programs and water conservation. Her dedication to conserving our lake was evident when she went above and beyond the call of duty to establish the Quail Valley Environmental Coalition, QVEC. This group helped Quail Valley advocate for a sewer system that will not only greatly benefit their community, but will directly contribute to reduced bacterial contamination in the Canyon Lake drinking water reservoir. While on the City Council, she was a devoted water preservation activist and avid member of Lake Elsinore San Jacinto Watershed Authority, LEJWA, including 1 year as president, a member of the board of directors of the San Jacinto River Watershed Council, and a member of the Total Maximum Daily Load Task Force. That's a mouthful. In addition to her many accomplishments and charitable ventures, Nancy and her husband Ted have both contributed to several POA committees, collaborated with Maureen Hamilton on the creation of a lake management plan for Canyon Lake, served on EVMWD's Engineering and Operations Committee, attended local community and agency meetings including Canyon Lake City Council, Canyon Lake POA Board, Canyon Lake Chamber of Commerce, Canyon Lake Water Subcommittee, the EVMWD and EMWD Group, Quail Valley Environmental Coalition, Tuscany Hills HOA, and Canyon Hills HOA meetings. Nancy's also held monthly open house meetings with constituents at the Sports Stop, and I'm told she's even conducted customer service training classes for CLPOA employees. Nancy has been an irreplaceable asset to this association and in all of her other capacities. I highly encourage all of you to attend her last EVMWD board meeting to bid her farewell on Thursday, November 8th at 4 p.m. at the Water District offices. I'd now like to bring Nancy up to present her with a token of our appreciation. So thank you again for everything you've done, Nancy. You'll be greatly missed. I don't know what we're going to do with you without you at our meeting, so I hope you keep coming. And we'd also like to wish Nancy's successor, either candidate Dale or Darcy, the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, consent agenda, items A through V. Does anybody want to pull any agenda items?
Yeah, I'd like to pull a couple. I'd like to pull J, L, N, and V.
To clarify, it's J, L, N as in Nancy, V as in Victor.
Yes.
Items pulled.
V. J-L-N, Nancy? Or M?
J, L, N,
N,
as in Nancy.
okay,
And V as in Victor. Pulled.
okay,
Yeah, J, L, N, and V.
and V. Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Okay,
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay. Item J.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this fine schedule. It seems like we've made quite a leap, and I'm not necessarily believing that the light leap in the fines, and I'm not necessarily believing the leap in the fines is going to bring about a change of behavior. I think it may bring in some more money, but I don't think people like tickets. For everybody I see they're down there appealing the $50 tickets. I think it's more a matter of principle for a lot of our members. I also see the ones with getting high tickets tend to not only to get they get 3 or 4 tickets in one event. We get a speeder, we get a failure to stop, we get a couple other fines, and there all of a sudden someone's sitting there with $1,800 in fines. So these fines add up, and I don't necessarily believe high fines fix people's behavior. I think consistent fines fix behavior. This is money that we're basically taking from the members. I can read some examples of fines. I think some of them one second.
It says 76.
Oh, there they are. We have threats to personal property is going up by $50, loitering's going up to $100, solicitations going to $100, smoking near buildings going up to $100. All these are basically $50 fines. I'm not sure someone who's smoking is more concerned about that extra $50 than they are just about getting the fines. And I don't want to be in a position where we're fining members. I want to be in a position where we're encouraging our members to behave in a civil manner. And I'm not sure this fine system does that.
What page is that?
It's 79.
Okay.
So that's just my feel. I think they're a little excessive. I mean, if our cost of giving out tickets and our cost of process has gone up, I could live with a $10 increase across all of them just to cover our own costs. But I just don't think that. I think the fine is a little excessive.
I don't think the fines have really changed anybody's behavior so far. So we're not here to make the money. And I'd be fine if everybody obeyed the rules and we made 0. I have no problem with that.
I think we're all on that page, yes. I just think the fines are a little excessive. Anybody else have any comments?
Do you have a motion?
Corey, could you kind of give us a little more in-depth background than just the sentence or two that's on here about why we're looking at these particular fine items and maybe the determination about where fines went from and to?
Sure. So I received a request to look at all of these fines and come up with proposed amounts to change. To expand on what I wrote here in terms of the background is that kind of like what Mike said is we have several fines. A lot of these that are proposed to be changed are $50 fines, and it's not necessarily altering the behavior. People are okay, they're willing to pay $50 to violate a rule, and so the thought is if we increase the amount monetarily, it may hurt a little bit more and discourage those people from continuing to violate the community rules.
You feel there's repeat offenders that just don't care about the $50, they just break the rule and pay the fine and move on?
Correct, yes.
They don't escalate? A lot of them don't escalate, a lot of them are just $50.
No, the only ones that escalate are the ones that are listed. Everything else is a flat fine. For example, on the second page you have the speed limit fines. Those escalate based on offense and speed that you're exceeding. Everything else would be a flat fine.
I don't believe the increased fines are really going to be that helpful. I would make a motion not to approve the fine schedule increase.
I would second your motion.
Any more discussion?
What about if you did a tier pricing for these others where you start at 50 and progressively go up, like you're doing with the speeding?
You want to make a subsidiary motion?
I'm looking for input if anybody agrees with it or not.
We could explore that route, and I could return if that's what the board wanted us to do.
Okay, I make a motion that we pull this and let,
We already have a first and a second on the table to deny item J.
okay. Do we have all those in favor of,
Denying item J.
In favor?
So we have Director Walty,
Aye.
Director Hagen in favor. Right.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So
Nay.
5 in favor to deny. Motion carried.
And I'm in agreement if you can come back with a better schedule, maybe little increments or, something escalating. If we're trying to fix a behavior, I agree, but I don't think this is the way.
Okay, will do.
The rule basically calls that a guest, it says that a guest can't be on a flotation device, and what the original rule was is that a guest could be on a flotation device fishing if he had a member next to him. And we're removing that because we had a large problem with people basically poaching. This came to the Recreation Committee. The Recreation Committee came ahead and recommended that guest fishing only be allowed in the guest fishing without a member would be allowed at the campground. And I believe in our discussion at the Rec Committee that we also recommended that this rule no longer would be necessary because of the limited fishing for guests we had already put into place or voted for. So I think the fact that if you have a guest in a fishing tube and we have a member within 100 feet fishing with them, I think that's okay. I'd be happy to hear from Mike and Corey and see if there's a reason that I don't know about why we need to have this rule.
So, to clarify, so we have a rule change proposed to eliminate the guest fishing pass. This particular rule would, like you just said, would prevent guests from being able to fish in a flotation device, even if they were with a member or not. So the other proposed rule eliminates guest fishing unless they're with a member. This rule would restrict them from being able to fish in a float tube, essentially, on the lake.
I think that the fishermen that were in the Rec Committee, they felt that because we had limited guest fishing basically down to the campground, that the impression from the fishermen, not from me, was that they felt that this rule was no longer needed because the number of guest members fishing together wasn't really creating the problem. It was the rapid number of guest fishermen basically throughout the whole lake. And now that the guest fishermen without members are kind of limited in space, they felt pretty comfortable that this one wasn't needed.
Okay, so are you, to clarify, are you saying to leave the rule as is, or
I would make
propose to
a motion, we
remove it?
leave the rule as is and don't make the change.
Do we have a second?
Sure. So the current rule is guests will not be allowed to fish in or from a flotation device other than a dock or properly registered boat unless in close proximity to the prime or associate member.
Yeah, and the proposed rule is that the guest could not fish in a flotation device even if he was fishing next to the member.
Correct.
If your friend came over and you guys wanted to go out in your float and go fishing together, you couldn't go. Even though you were right 10 feet from your friend, he can't go with you because it's a floating device. And I think that as long as the guest is there with the member, I don't have a problem.
Okay, we have a comment from somebody, 3718-180.
I've lived in the lake for 30 years. My kids grew up fishing the lake since they could walk. They don't live here anymore. My wife and I still live here. What's defined as a guest? Okay, so they've been out on they kayak fish. My son, he works for Hobie. We got Hobie kayaks. They kayak fish all the time, but they're not here that often. But they've been hassled on the lake by the guards before in their kayaks, and they have their fishing licenses and everything. But do you live in the lake? Yeah, well, my parents live right there, you know. And so there's been an issue there with those guys. So how do you just have to, what kind of identification do they need?
Corey, track and lot?
I can
POA
answer
card?
that, yeah. So to clarify, a guest would be anybody who's not a member of the association. And to be a member, you would have to come register at the member services office. But any guest is anybody who's not an association member.
I mean, immediate family is not considered. They would have to. What do they have to do? They got to register
Correct.
every time they want to fish.
No. So an immediate family member
Is there
could
what I'm
be
asking?
considered a
Is there
member.
some type of certificate or something that they can carry with them, like with their fishing license that says, "Hey, I can fish here. I'm authorized to fish here." Is there some kind of card that they can get?
That would be the POA card, sir. So if the immediate family lives here in the community, they can register to be a member of the association. If they don't, and they're just visiting you, then they would be considered a guest.
Okay, a guest, meaning they can't fish without a member?
Correct.
Wait a second. You're kidding me.
If you look in the rules and regs, there's a section that talks about the different kinds of memberships we have here,
Okay.
and they'd even define it by age and in your household.
Right.
So I'm going to just go to a leap and say you probably have a child that maybe doesn't fit most of those definitions. I'm not sure, Corey, if you can help him understand how a sibling or a child that might be older than, say, 25 could still potentially be on his tract and lot.
Sure. Yeah. So if your child lives with you,
They don't live with me.
Oh, okay.
They come to visit periodically, and they fish when they come. You know, I mean, and they fish this lake since they were little kids. You know, and I mean, they're stewards of the environment and everything else. And you know, I mean, my son's on the Hobie fishing team, man. I mean, it's not like they're going to damage the environment. You know, they're catch and release, and there are kids, and we live here. I mean, I think that's ridiculous that they couldn't get some type of a card saying that I don't have to be with them to fish. I think that's a ridiculous rule.
The reason for the rule is to eliminate the people that don't live here, that haven't been called in. How are we going to stop them from getting one of these cards?
Okay, that's all I'm asking. What identification do they need to be able to
But
fish?
how do you stop the poachers from getting those cards?
I don't know. That's probably your problem.
That's the problem.
You know, I mean, you're talking you're talking about forgery and everything else. Come on, man. It's you can. I think it's ridiculous that there's not some type of a card to validate that they should be able that they are a kid from a member. You know, I mean, it's that just escapes me. You know, why if you don't have something there that, I mean, they're basically their immediate family.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the decision there? I mean, I have to be with them to fish.
We haven't made a decision yet.
Okay,
It's on the table right now.
okay.
Okay.
And when will I know something?
And soon, we're going to call for the vote.
Okay,
All right.
great, thank you.
Do we have a first, Dale?
We have a motion to deny the change and to keep the rule as is.
Okay, and a second?
No.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
4 in favor, 1 against. Motion carried to keep the rule as is.
Dan's just a quick question. Corey, you probably answer this. What's the fine for taillights after before and after sunset? I agree with the rule. I just didn't see a fine attached.
You know, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can research it for you. I want to say it's $50, but let me.
So there is a fine?
There is.
You
yes.
just know what it is? There is a fine, though.
Correct. Yes, there is a fine.
That was my only question. I make a motion, we approve N, that the Board of Directors approve the 30-day reading to revise the rule as attached.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
I think Steve's going to come and sit with this one real quick. It's a simple question, again, I just have to have my answers before. I see we're building this monument out at the Eastport, great thing, you know, the price looks good, we're all happy. I just want to know how it's going to tie into the sound wall. I mean, I'm pretty sure you have a plan, but it looks to me like from the picture, it's going to curve and kind of hit the sound wall, or how is the building of the sound wall going to impact the East Gate entrance structure, or will it? All I saw was this picture, this sign on this curve, kind of looked like where your new wall was going to go, and I just want to know how that new wall was going to fit into the sign. Maybe you're...
I've studied the sound wall plans quite a bit, and the sound wall plans, if you're looking at the photo I think was submitted with the board packet,
Yeah.
the pilaster that's all the way on the left,
Yeah.
the sound wall will actually be tying into that pilaster. So right now, there's actually a little wall there with some wrought iron that ties into that, where that pilaster would be.
Right.
The sound wall would actually just dive into
To that.
that stonework.
And what about that curve in the fence where, you know, people kind of climb over all day long?
Yeah, that would be to the left of that pilaster, and I believe that gets demoed for the sound wall. So
And that's
all that fencing goes down towards the parking lot, down towards Eastport parking lot, boat
Yeah.
parking lot. That'll all be demoed with the new sound wall that actually comes up and will tie into the pilaster all the way on the left-hand side of the signage.
And you're going to deal with those whoop-de-doos where like a 3-year-old could climb over?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to know.
Okay.
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, board action items. Item 6.1, Cheryl? Would you like to read this, please? No? Okay.
If I might read it from up there, if that's okay. It is recommended that a permanent real estate sign to be placed in a designated area for the multiple sign use to house up to 4 separate. It's really going to depend on how many for sale properties are going to be in there. The sign will be located 5 to 6 feet back from the curb to the right of the monument sign. This is at Treasure Island, by the way, I'm sorry. The right-hand side of the driveway. There is a picture, I'm not sure if that picture was included, that can actually show where the sign would be located. So, okay, it is in your packet. We're recommending that the sign be no higher than 5 feet and to be placed roughly between 5 and 6 feet back from the curb.
So the sign itself would have any, you would such as what picture
I'm sorry.
is? The style that we're looking at?
I believe it would be the same sign that was there before, but it's going to be cut down in size and placed on the opposite side. It's going to be to the right of the monument sign that's currently there. And we're also recommending this to be done because that area is our property. We're going to be recommending it with a licensing agreement.
I would like to mention that this was brought forward to the committee a couple years ago, and we gave them some ideas of what we were looking at, of how to work this out. Unfortunately, what our thought was that they would bring it back to the committee, then we would forward it to the board for approval for the licensing agreement. One of the problems that the Treasure Island has that none of the other condos have is that their CC&R states that you cannot put up a for sale sign out in front of their property, which is basically at the start of the bridge to Treasure Island. So what happened was, as you you may not have known, but they put the sign up. It was excessively tall and big. The idea was not to be an advertisement for real estate signs, but only to show open house and to have slots that they could sign it, put whenever a realtor has a condo for sale in Treasure Island, they could slide their real estate name in there as a way to identify there is something for sale on Treasure Island. But the real problem with them is that their CC&Rs state no real estate signs at our entrance. So they're kind of left with a problem. So they would like to put it on the other side, and that's what they don't, but on POA property.
Well, and the problem with it is I'm not exactly privy to their CC&Rs. We don't have their CC&Rs in our possession, but that was told to us by the president of Treasure Island. The issue is that's POA property. And so I believe the POA has the right to be able to put a licensing agreement on their own property for one sign, for a permanent position sign.
But I think a good idea to put with this agreement, if it is approved, is that you'd only, say the board president only has approval, or would only put, or have, that only the realtors that actually have a condo for sale in there will put their name up. You can't have every realtor within the community put their sign up.
Well, that's the idea, is for
Yeah.
a permanent real estate for sale sign, not for advertising.
Right.
Any other questions?
No, I just have a comment. I think overall it's a pretty good idea. I'd like to, instead of a permanent, maybe give them a 5-year run, and let's see if it works over the next 5 years, and if we have a problem in 5 years, and unexpected thing, we can have it taken out in 5 years, and if it's not a problem,
That actually
It's a
give-
license, it's revocable.
Yeah, it's
You have to put
revocable.
a time limit on it.
Okay.
oh, so we don't need to put a time limit?
Well, it's revocable. You could put a time limit on it if you want, but it's a revocable license. It's not a permanent, it's not a possessory right.
So in other words, we would not have to put a time frame in there, because let's say, for instance, we put it up and within a year we know there's problems. If we put a 5-year time frame on there, we might have a problem trying to get it out of there. So we basically just use it as a revocable license at any time we wish to revoke it.
Okay, I was just looking for a way out in case it became a problem.
We have
It
a
looks
way
like we
out.
have that one. We have that worked out, so I'm good.
Okay, I make the motion that we approve the recommendation by Planning and Compliance to place a sign located 5 to 6 feet back of the curb and to the right of the monument
Second?
with a licensing agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Susan, reserve study?
Hello.
I think she said 5 feet.
Yes, Yes, the board has this year hired a firm to come and conduct a reserve study analysis. The firm name was Reserve Data Analysis. They were hired to come and analyze 5 things. They took a look at all of the major components of the association, their remaining useful life, the total cost of repair and replacing those assets, the total annual contribution was calculated so that these assets could be replaced and repaired, and this study was over a period of the future 30 years. This study has been presented to the board, and we're recommending that the board of directors receive and file the reserve study for the period of May 1st, 2018.
Okay, I make the motion that, excuse me, that we accept the reserve study and have it filed.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Thank you, Susan. And Mr. Snyder.
Good evening. It's being requested that POA, excuse me, install some dog-friendly off-leash areas at Emerald Park and Outrigger Park. Because of the limited area in the parks, each dog-friendly off-leash area will consist of one big open area without fencing separation for large or small dogs. Other things staff point out we needed included dog pots, bags, metal benches, and fixed metal umbrellas. There'll also be a small increase in probably next year's operational cost. Fencing for both parks was $9,120. 2 benches with umbrellas, $3,518. 6 dog pots with supplies of bags is $2,148.30. Project total would be $14,786.30. This would be coming from the CIP Fund 05670. Staff requests that the Board of Directors approve the funding amount of $14,786.30 plus a 5% contingency to come from CPI Fund 05670 for off-leash areas at Emerald Park and Outrigger Park.
I make a motion, we approve funding in the amount of $14,786.30 plus a 5% contingency from the CIP Fund 05-670 for off-leash areas at Emerald Park and Outrigger Park.
I second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Steve?
In June of 2018, the Board of Directors moved to pursue a pump track and park design for Sierra Park North. Sorry, I should have said the title of this one. So this is for landscape architect and engineering for Sierra Park North pump track to incorporate, or for the park, excuse me, to incorporate the pump track. There's a typo there in the title. So in June of 2018, the Board of Directors moved to pursue a pump track and park design to incorporate that in Sierra Park North. The staff would like to hire a landscape architect and engineer to come up with a conceptual plan to present to the board and the members of the community. Just a little bit of background, the park consists of almost 2 acres. It's all undeveloped land located between Vacation Drive and Giant Fir Place. The new improvements to the facility to follow a general park layout and provide the minimal features. They may include, obviously, the pump track, a restroom building, parking lot, walkways, picnic areas, a tot lot, trees, turf, so on and so forth, the infrastructure to support all those things. The deliverables to include in this contract would be a preliminary conceptual design, elevations and 3D sketches, preliminary cost estimate, meaning they would give us an idea of how much it's going to cost to build this thing out if we so choose, and if we decide to do it in stages, what each stage approximately would cost us. the utility servicing requirements, and meeting notes and a presentation to the board and members of the community. Fiscal impact would be $19,600, requesting that to come from CIP Fund 05670. The recommendation staff requests of the Board of Directors to approve the funding for the amount of $19,600 to come from CIP Fund 05670 for the conceptual design and cost estimates for the Sierra Park North project.
Okay, I make the recommendation that we approve funding in the amount of $48,700 plus 2.5% oh wait, that's the wrong one, isn't it? Oh, here. Yeah. Okay. We approve funding in the amount of $19,600 to come from CIP Fund 05670 for a conceptual design and cost estimate of the Sierra Park North project.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, that brings us to the member comment section, and I want to remind members that we don't have any. Yeah, really. Okay. Report of executive session.
Good evening, everyone. Today's executive session was called to order at 2:06 p.m. Items discussed on the agenda included 2 member-related items. There were 3 personnel matter discussion items held with the board. Legal provided an update on 2 pending items, and then there were 3 third-party discussion contract items. The meeting concluded at 5:27 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Community Patrol, Mike.
President, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, good to see you all again. It looks like it's going to be a short meeting this evening. I'm going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to share with you guys some statistics for this last year, the last 11 months, because I won't see you again until after our anniversary date on December 1st. So this story, it does apply, and I will keep it short. As a young soldier, I learned early on that there is never a rest in a defense. I have and had completed my basic training and was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and talk about a proud soldier. On one particular and wet, soggy, cold mission, my unit was set in a defense. Myself and my partner, another private, had dug our fighting position to textbook standard. Shortly after we thought we were finished, through the muck and gloom came Sergeant First Class Escoboza, a rather imposing man about 6'3", who had already seen combat action in Mogadishu and was definitely a force. He was a man to be looked up to. He calmly asked us if our fighting position was complete and how we were doing, as was customary. We glanced at each other for a moment, my partner and I, and responded, "Yes, Sergeant, it's done, and we're great, but cold and wet like everyone else." Boy, were we proud to give that report. I think that was the best report I've ever given. His response was a simple one. "You are both liars, because, privates, a fighting position is never complete. It's never as safe as it could be if you had kept working on it, and there is no better way to stay warm. Hand me a shovel." Because I am cold too. He added that our drill sergeant had taught us well, but stated, "I will teach you better," and he did, for many years. Years later, with stripes on my own shoulder, I was able to pass this doctrine on to my soldiers in peacetime and on deployment to Afghanistan, sometimes under the most extreme of circumstance. I maintain the same outlook of no rest in a defense to this day. I'm telling you this story because my force as a team find ourselves conducting defense inside of Canyon Lake. We always strive to improve as officers and professionals and always look for ways to improve our service. This effort never stops. Recently, with the assistance of Member Services Management, Mr. Corey Gorham has been instrumental in this effort. We have completed a comprehensive gate training document for our existing gate officers and officers new to the community. We have also enhanced our gate training program guidelines to require supervisor-led training and certification. Starting tomorrow, we will begin to run our more veteran officers back through a refresher to make sure all officers are on the same page, whether they have been assigned for 1 day or for 16 years within Canyon Lake, which is the limit of my most senior officer. This evening, I would also like to share some of our statistics. These statistics reflect items that were processed from December 2017, the 1st of December when we took charge, to October 31st of 2018, or the end of last month. That's an 11-month period. Officers on shift between February and from February to October, as we didn't collect data from December and January, have driven a total of 112,461 miles in service to this community. This figure does not account for miles accrued in December or January, as I mentioned, as it was before data was collected. This also does not account for rental vehicles assigned while our units were in for standard maintenance. To put this into perspective, that's 4.5 times around the surface of the earth. If you add in all that other data, those other vehicles that are missing, I'd venture a guess to say it's closer to 5.5 times around the earth. That's quite an achievement. There have been 2 officers that had to have a year driving suspension because they bumped a vehicle with minor damage, and 1 that got it stuck in some grass. So for anyone, that many times, I probably would have destroyed a few vehicles in that amount of miles. Officers have conducted 28,414 foot patrol scans of amenities and parks, reported 4,080 separate incidents of all types. That's an average of 370 per month. Issued 1,496 parking citations based on recorded incidents and 471 speeding citations, to include offenses designated as reckless, with an additional 111 traffic-related offenses. The Community Patrol has seen both triumphs and tragedies this year. My goal for next year is to continue to improve in all areas, at the gate with speed, accuracy, and training. For my road patrol, my hope is to have them look for and not find the HOA policy violations. And for safety's sake, no speed violations, to avoid the tragedy I mentioned a moment ago. We're in this game for compliance only, safety only. My officers see no incentive to issuing a citation, and we do try to avoid it. I urge residents to become familiar with the rules and regulations within the community in order to avoid the possibility of citations for any reason. If you're going to park on the street, be familiar with those parking rules that you can find in your property owner's manual. If you're going to fish, be familiar with those fishing rules. The burden of proof is always on the officer, as I mentioned in other board meetings. I am always happy to provide information on any rule or regulations when called upon to do so. I would like never to have to respond to a tragedy after the fact. As always, my office is open to all, and on behalf of my team, we would like to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season.
Any questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Eric?
That was a great report. I don't know how I can follow that military poise and delivery, but I'm not even going to try. But thank you, Mike. Both Mikes. As usual, I will direct everybody to the staff reports in the agenda, starting on PDF page 47 with activities. There's a ton of information every month from all the departments in great detail, and so as usual, I'll just hit on a few highlights. We recently completed the second annual country club update during the overseating closure, and we got a lot done there. New dance floor, kitchen updates. The golf course is freshly overseeded and it looks amazing. If you haven't been out there, you need to get out there. It looks better than it looks any other time of the year. It's perfect. The board just approved replacing and updating one of the things I hate most here in the POA, and that's the triangular pink golf and country club signage on Railroad Canyon Road. And it's long overdue. It was constructed of aluminum or steel and coated with a vinyl printed sign, and that sign has deteriorated really badly, and it's long overdue for an update. So that update is going to have stone on it and be internally lit 10 or 20 year lifespan commercial sign, and much nicer looking. So the board just approved that, so we're going to jump right on that. I'm anxious to get that done. The lake bypass pump has also been completed, and we're now not using, the lake is, at the golf course, is not currently being used for irrigation, so it's slowly draining down, and as it drains down, we're going to assess what our next steps are, and either how to repair it, what to repair, whether it's going to stay the same size, bigger, smaller. So that's a project that's creeping up on us, literally. The board also approved tonight a funding for new monument signage at the east gate. That signage will be stucco and backlit blue lettering, identical to what you see at the main gate, just a little smaller scale, have rock and the same backlit aluminum lettering, and that's a long overdue update of the signage over there at Eastgate. Board also approved additional off-leash dog areas at Emerald and Outrigger Parks, so we'll be working on that. If you were paying attention, you'd see that they also approved a landscape architect to do a master plan for Sierra Park North, which then leads to the pump track shortly thereafter. We're moving forward with fencing at the senior center, closing a gap that's been there since the remodel, and actually before that, on the west side of the main gate, and also the pedestrian gate at the east gate. Holiday Harbor Amphitheater, we're making some revisions to the stairs and the shade structure, and we hope to have that open soon. And that's all I have this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Howard?
Mr. President, I don't have anything further to add other than what we discussed in executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Board comments.
We've had a lot of improvements here in the community. I think one that I'd like to see us look a little bit stronger into is that we've improved the north gate with an RFID lane, and I've had a number of members ask why we don't use that at nighttime, because we cone it off and make it so that we can't get in, and everybody has to go through the visitor lane. But we have a lot of members that have put the RFIDs on their cars, so if we can get some kind of an illuminated sign or something that we can put up at nighttime. I think the lane closes at 10 or 11 o'clock and then reopens in the morning about 6, just so that, says simply that, RFID between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. or something, so that we can start utilizing that and members can freely come in that north gate RFID lane, much like they do the other 2 gates. Fall's here. The temps are going down. I'm heading to Chile tomorrow. We're at summertime, so I'll look forward to coming back. I get back right before Thanksgiving. Everybody have a happy holiday, and we'll see everybody next month. Hopefully everybody voted tonight, too.
I went to the FRC committee this month, and I have some that I thought was good news, is that we're looking at Continental, and we're looking at Longhorn, and we're looking at trying to clear out some of those intersections that are very difficult to see around, where we're talking about putting some red paint and setting some areas so that when you're trying to get out of your street, there's not a car parked right there, and you'll be able to actually see down the street and see cars coming, so you don't have to pull out into opposing traffic. We're looking at possibly a parking lane that would hopefully allow space for the pedestrians to walk by the cars. Right now, there's a number of pedestrians on both Continental and Longhorn. And in the hour we were standing in Continental, there were probably 13 to 15 people with their dogs walking. People are coming down that street about 40 miles an hour. I live there, so I hear the yelling out the cars of "Get out of my lane!" And so it's kind of a tense situation. It's just a lot of parked cars. So we're going to look into fixing that. And that's kind of exciting. And then Jeannie Odell was over and saying, "Hey, if you're going to do Continental, you need to do Longhorn, because we're walking our dogs and we're parking our cars and we're having trouble getting out." So it's not going to be overnight, because we have a lot of road work to do ahead in the future we have to integrate with, but I'm hoping that we can go ahead and get those roads slowed down. We can get the people who are walking up and down the street comfortable and not feeling like they're on the edge of a freeway watching the cars go by. So that with the help of Mike over there to get the traffic to slow down, and I think the residents on both streets, especially the walkers, will have a lot better time. So kind of excited to do that. That's small, but I think it's important to a lot of people.
It's good news to the golfers and even more good news to the people of our community. After the reseeding and the closure to make the golf course better, it's reopened and it is better. We have a great opportunity for those of you who don't play golf on an annual basis. Come out, make a tee time, and enjoy and rejoy the golf course once again. A lot of effort went into it by a lot of people on the Green Committee. They get to work every work day for all these years in Canyon Lake where they go out, unpaid workers, to make changes, upgrades, and et cetera for our golf course, so everyone in the community can take advantage of it. Thanks.
We had the privilege a couple weeks ago to attend the POA held a private ceremony on October 25th to unveil a new historical marker at Holiday Park. The marker is in honor of the Canyon Lake pioneers Don and Eleanor Martin, Evans Fish Camp, and Martin's Landing. If you have the time, it's a beautiful setting down there. We had a chance to talk to them and their sons of what this looked like 50 some odd years ago. And having that monument down there is certainly in honor of what they did. Eleanor is the granddaughter of Henry Evans, who purchased the land Canyon Lake sits on in 1890. Her family owned and operated Evans Fish Camp and then went on to run Martin's Landing, home of the Canyon Queen Tourboat and Village. Store and Marina. Martin's Landing is now known as Holiday Harbor. For those that didn't have the opportunity to see this, the city of Canyon Lake will be honoring the Martin family during the city council meeting on November 7th, which is tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall. Residents are encouraged to attend. This was in the Friday flyer for those that didn't see it. It is in the Friday flyer if you want to look what I just read to you. But anyway, it was really a beautiful, beautiful setting, and just another great thing that we have in Canyon Lake.
I just want to add something. I know everybody wants. The Veterans Day celebration this year is not on Veterans Day. It's on Saturday. Nancy, what time is it start? So Nancy's just telling me that they're going to have a flyover, and it's going to be before the 10 o'clock, so come on down early. I think there's usually donuts and hot chocolate and plenty of veterans and plenty of good company, so they have plenty of chairs, a couple of speakers, so please, I want to encourage everyone to get up on Saturday after you go out and you do your 2-mile run to be healthy. Come on down and have a donut and hot chocolate and join us for the Veterans Day celebration. And again, Nancy, thank you for all your service.
You stole my thunder. Thank you. It's okay. Yes, Nancy, thank you. Really, really appreciate it. And come out for the veterans. It's truly amazing. I came from, San Pedro, and we used a little tiny thing. It just blew me away how this community comes together for the veterans, and it's truly amazing. And that concludes the regular portion of our meeting. You're welcome to stay for the appeals section if you would like, or you can scoot out the door. Five minutes. Want to call the meeting back to order? Okay, first up is Scott Monroe. Cheryl?
Good evening. I'm assuming Mr. Monroe is here? Are you Mr. Monroe? No?
No.
You got 2 appeals and 2 people. Somebody just here for the entertainment.
Well, then I would I know that he went ahead and did a reschedule prior to it coming to the board, so I guess my question would be, would we be able to postpone this to make sure he comes until next month?
We allow one postponement.
From here, correct?
If this is his first schedule, then we would allow one postponement.
This is second schedule.
We could recommend that the board can make a decision without them present, or if they'd like to allow him another postponement, it's up to the board.
Yeah. Someone want to make the motion?
I make a motion, we give him another try.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Mr. Randall is present, so. Mr. Randall is here tonight. He is appealing the ACC decision for removing of a collapsed seawall that took place, I want to say, maybe over a year ago.
Longer than that.
Okay, so actually, let's go back to December of 2013. We have a picture, and Lynn, if you can go to picture number A, it'll show you the old seawall that was actually there before he put up his new seawall. Dude. Okay, to kind of like explain a little bit of the story here. Now, if we can flip that picture around so they can see it, that would be great. This is the seawall prior to Mr. Randall fixing the seawall. So if you can see the date there, it does say December of 2013. So the seawall basically collapsed. And so what happened was, is after the water rose, after the committee went out there and after the inspectors went out there, we were going to be signing off on the on his seawall, which he had built, and everything was okay until, if you remember, I want to say about 4 or 5 months ago, the water levels went down really low. And so there are some other pictures that show, let me make sure of where you're at. Okay, so that would be, I want to say it's letter I, so it would be, that would show you what it looks like now. Well, not now, but this is after the waters rose. So what the committee is basically asking is for this particular seawall, which is still in the lake right now, to be removed. And so that's what Mr. Mr. Randall is here to do today, is to appeal that decision. What staff wants to recommend is that instead of removing this seawall, which has fallen down, is to break it up and apply for an application to put it as erosion control. So as opposed to having him remove it entirely.
So if I understand correctly, picture C is the existing condition?
No.
No, the existing condition,
It did a header into the water. There's a shelf there, and it is leaning up against, it's on the bottom of the lake, leaning up against that shelf.
I have pictures and I'm going to pass over to the board. I'm not too sure if they're in the packet or not. But when the water's levels went down really low, before they had brought in some more water, the inspectors went out and found that this seawall had been left. And so we had notified Mr. Randall to let him know that he needed to remove that. He came to the committee, and the committee basically explained that we can't allow it just to stay there, that it had to be removed. Well, at another property, we had decided to go ahead and have tailings and such be used as an erosion control. So it was my suggestion to go ahead and see whether or not we could use this as erosion control, but yet break it up and put it at the bottom of his seawall. So, but he would still have to apply for that.
Do you have a problem doing that? I mean, to me, that's the best plan ever.
Well, be honest with you, at 42 years of the construction business, I never ran a 65-pound jackhammer in the water.
Well, no, you probably have to wait for the water to go low. I mean, at some point, the water will
Real
go
low.
If it's
The
that
top
deep.
of that wall is 6 feet underwater. The top of it after it toppled in. You can get to the bottom of it. if the water gets low. But you can't get to the top. It's buried down in the silt in the bottom of the lake. That's right. And what it's doing now, yeah, the footing is looking at you, and whoever poured that footing ought to be hung. But, no, well, there's a lot of problems with it. But, even if you got the top, or the bottom exposed like in that picture, if you hit it with a jackhammer, the pieces are going to fall down. How do you get it from down to up? Oh, okay. You better put a big old hose on that sucker.
How far down did the wall go into the sediment?
How far down does it go?
I mean, you said fell over and went down. How deep into the
that's probably
sediment?
a 6-foot section. So when the lake is down at that level, you probably see the top foot. So you got 5 feet underwater.
See where the drain line hole is, the upper left-hand corner of the wall?
That's underwater.
Looking at your picture of your rebuilt wall here, and I'll pass it down so these guys can see it. Where's your water level today?
It's over the top of the footing.
Okay. The top of the old footing?
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, it's a wrong picture.
Yeah, between you guys,
The old footing that's sticking out of the water, is the old footing sticking out of the water right now? Or is it
no,
submerged?
it's submerged.
How far away is it from your wall?
From the wall, it's right up against that,
I mean, to me, it looks like it's within 4 or 5 feet of your wall.
yeah, there's a level there that the wall's sitting down on it right now. Between that and the new wall, it's probably 4 or 5 feet.
So somebody asked me my opinion, what I think would be reasonable is when the water level goes down, break up the part that isn't buried in the silt. And, at least this part that you see in this picture, which is basically the old footing and 1 or 2 courses.
Yeah.
So that when the water is low, at least the part that's sticking out when it's low is broken up and turned into rubble. Because we allow rubble, we just allow this. I mean, I kind of seriously doubt anybody going 5 feet from your wall.
No. I'll be honest with you, the fishermen say they like it.
Well, honestly, that's a really good argument.
They do.
When we do a fish study, they say, you guys really ought to have more reefs.
Yeah.
So I would go with that.
Yeah.
So here's the picture. And he's not wrong. It's not a bad habitat. And I don't know that it's a navigation. I hate to disagree with you guys, but maybe break it up till the point you can't get to it anymore.
My only concern with not breaking it up and using it as a erosion control is that if it should happen elsewhere in other areas, it might be setting a precedent, so.
Keep in mind that the elevation of the footing, which is the bottom of the seawall, is at 1377. The lake can be dropped down to 1372. I wasn't here before they started adding water to the lake, and I don't know what it got down to, but I've seen it.
1375, is that what it got to?
No, it could, yeah. anyway, so the lake went down this year, and that's when it became obvious in, I think it was in August, that it was, that it could be seen. The thing we're only asking for is to have it removed. This can't be done tomorrow. I mean, we're going to have probably give them another year to be able to do this, because I don't see the water going down unless it's an extremely dry winter until, next summer. So what we're thinking of is just that the material that's able to get to when the water goes down to, say, 1374, let's say, for example, I've seen it at 1374. I've been here since 86, and I can tell you at one time it was down to 1374. And you can, you could have access to some of it. This part of the wall, and it's a shame they don't have that picture in your file that the inspector took when they saw it. But not all of it can be taken out, that's true. But if he can get the most part of it, like Cheryl said, we've given permit. A lot of seawalls right now, when the water gets down low, the homeowner discovers that, lo and behold, their footings have been washed away by wave action. So they actually put rock in there, or some people have cemented in front just to kind of keep the footing safe. You don't want this kind of problem. So, thank you.
Should the water not go down low enough in the next year's time, the committees can always they give plenty of time, and we understand that the water has to be low enough.
So we'll give you a year at a time until the water goes low. At some point, once the water gets low, do what you can to knock the top off. And
One consideration called safety.
Thank you.
Those of you who have ever used a jackhammer knows that it is slamming at 60 to 90 pounds with a metal bit that's a good inch diameter. And you miss this and
Goes the wrong way. You're going with it.
Me too. Okay. I make a motion that we give Mr. Randall a year to see what happens here and to stop the fines
If I
immediately.
may, they've already been stopped. If
Okay.
I may have him apply, if we can make a motion to have him apply
Okay.
for the erosion control, and we will give him the amount of time he needs to be
Okay.
able to get that done.
Yeah, the other question I have is at what level? Because I'm looking at it, if it only goes down to 17 or 1377, where does that leave us?
Well,
Another
we've had a couple of projects over my course of 12 years of being here where we've given them several years to get something completed. So that's not the issue. The other thing I would recommend is, should Mr. Randall do the application process, that the board go ahead and just dismiss the fines at this present time.
Dismiss the fines now? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Well, I'll apply tomorrow.
But we'll work with you, and as soon as, if it gets low enough where you can, and have us, Eric can come out, or I'll come out, or somebody will come out, and we'll go look at it and say, what's the best we can do? And we can all kind of come to an agreement,
Yeah,
as best you can do, and we'll move down the road from there.
Yeah, the only thing I wish is that other picture go up there, because you have two places to stand, either on top of the wall with the jackhammer or stand on that dirt area and reach out with the jackhammer, which neither one of them are good situations.
That's, without us seeing it, I mean, you could always plank from the plank, get some planks or some plywood and work your way out. But, sitting here looking at the picture, I can't tell anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that water gets low, you want a staff to come out, or
Sure, no, that's fine.
And everybody
I'm just-
comes out and says, can we find a safe way for you to do this? And if we can, then we talk about it. And if we come out and say, there's no safe way to do this, then at that point, the board will maybe say,
Okay,
fish
that's fair
habitat.
enough. You're not moving that, Eric, in its solid form. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Don't let my dog out. Okay. He might lick you to death, but don't let him out.
We never want to let anyone off the hook completely, so we're really happy about you, because we own you for about 5 or 10 years, so.
Okay, I want to amend the motion to direct Mr. Randall to go back to the ACC and apply for erosion control application, okay? And the fines will be dismissed at the time that you submit this application.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
This meeting is closed at 7:31. Almost gave you my miles.